Hey everyone, Trevor Dyches here with Uplift Uganda. Join me today as we discuss the wheres, the whats, the whys, and the whos. Hey everyone, Trevor Dyches here. I am 22 years old and I will be in Uganda next week at this time. What are my goals there? Why am I going? What started this? Why am I talking about it? Those are the questions that we will address. And by the end of this discussion, we will both be on the same page, and hopefully you will also see why I'm so excited. It all started when I opened up an envelope. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I chose to serve a 2-year mission for them, for my church. And you don't choose where you go when you apply for missionary service. No, instead you apply, and then later you receive an envelope and you open it up. It tells you where you're going to spend your life for the next 18 months or 2 years, depending on your service. I opened up my envelope and it said I was going to the Uganda Kampala mission. And this changed my world, going to Uganda and living there for almost 2 years. Now, I'm going back because I saw a lot of things there. And I saw a lot of humanitarian aid that wasn't solving a problem, but perpetuating it. I saw the way a system was ingrained in them that Westerners had money, Mzungus had money, and that they should, and they did give it to those who asked. Meaning, there were a lot of people asking me for money. And I saw a lot of good humanitarians that were using people's sacrificed money there. And it helped sometimes and in some ways. But overall, I saw a system being perpetuated. A system of savior and saved. Rescuer and rescued. This trip hopes to be able to help them in ways without that relationship, but rather with the relationship of a partner in business. In Uganda, 70% of the population is less than 30 years old. That means there is a huge working class, and so they're stuck. They find what they can, they do what they can, but often they're entry-level jobs. Often there's no room to grow. Often it's renting something, such as a motorcycle that they use as a taxi, as a courier service to carry people and goods to different places. Or other things where they're renting someone else's tools. Or finding just a job running, a boutique or at some other small shop and finding that there's no way to grow. Without money, they aren't able to go to the hospital when they fall sick or get injured, which happens much more often than here in America. Without money, it's hard for them to let their children go to school or for them to finish an education. Without money, it's hard for them to stay safe. Money doesn't solve all your problems, of course, but having money does allow you to have longer lives. The best way to get the money is not actually about giving it to them, but giving them in a way that they can earn it, and hopefully that can lead to some scaling as well. Let's talk about some of the ways that I hope to do this. If the goal is not to provide them with money, but provide them with something they can do that earns money, what are my ways to go about this? Now, my first option, or my first thought that I had in doing this, was to start a physical business on the ground. And when I thought of one that I could do from here and still affect over there, I thought an easy one would be retail of goods. Not Ugandan goods in America, but American goods in Uganda. In most third world countries, there's a class of very, very rich and most people who are poor. And the same is true in Uganda. And those who are very, very rich and almost only buy American products for the prestige status of having things from America. So your market there with American goods would be those who are very rich, and we would be able to employ those who are in more humble circumstances. And a retail would be something I could do from this side. I could work from here, send it to the location, people that I know and trust and have set up over there, and thereby have a physical business and be able to employ people that could lead to growth and upscaling to multiple locations perhaps, or to new products, or, more workers. So I think that could be very beneficial. That's the idea that crossed my mind when I was first considering this possibility of what I would do there. As I continued my studies, I've been on a pursuit, trying to understand what are the best practices for making a change, for helping people to become self-sufficient in a way that helps them in generations to come. During this pursuit, I had the opportunity to speak with BYU professor Aaron Miller. He is a professor of social impact at BYU. And the first advice that he gave me, first and foremost, was to love the problem, not the solution. Meaning not that we want the problem to continue, of course. Aaron Miller is the faculty director and co-founder of BYU's Grantwell program, in which over 200 graduate students have advised over $1.5 million in foundation giving. He's the faculty director of BYU Social Venture Academy. He teaches business ethics, nonprofit management, and social entrepreneurship. He has some experience with this. And when he says love the problem, not the solution, what he means is not that we want the problems to continue, but that we want to solve the problem. We love the problem because we want it to be solved. And the way it's solved isn't as important as that it is solved. I think it's the solution to the problem. How do you go about that? In short, gather data. You have to gather as much as you can, asking various questions, asking various places, people, groups, to know what is the true problem, what is the root, because maybe it will end up, when I get there, that it will be more about job matching them with employers than about creating new jobs. It's entirely possible. Like I said, love the problem, not the solution. And when I do experiment, he recommended that it needs to be a very small controlled area in order to measure the results. He said that you may think that one country is small enough, but it's not. Pick a city, pick a location of that city and focus there. If it does good in one place, replicate it to help in so many others. That is the goal of this trip. I may or may not be able to implement things there. My current capital is still too small to really do any huge investments into this. But as I do market research, I may be able to implement some small-scale opportunities that present themselves if I'm guided to them. The second advice he gave was to not take big swings. Little tests are much better both for my side and theirs, as it will better address the problem and evaluate if this is a good solution. He said also that it's important to find similar players, similar people, and groups and businesses that may be doing similar things and talk to them. And then in closing, he mentioned that humility and diligence are what leads to true empowerment. So I need to stay humble and diligent as I go there, just find the true power, the true ability not only to empower others, but to be empowered myself. Keep my eyes open for a niche and watch for the miracles. So after this conversation, I went back and reevaluated my idea to start physical business and thought, what other options can I look at? What other things can I do? And one that came heavily to mind was a lease-to-own option. This thought had crossed my mind before, but I had never delved into the hows or the possibilities of it. And there are many people who have a skill, maybe even a trade, but they don't have the equipment to do it. Perhaps someone has either learned from their friends or their parents or even gone to trade school and they know how to sew, but they do not have access or any sewing machine. It makes it pretty inefficient and in many ways makes all this training that you had useless without that equipment. Or maybe they went to school and learned digital design or how to edit photos and print them out. There's a lot more physical photos printed in Uganda than here. There's a bigger market for that. And they may have the skills, but they don't have a computer, they don't have a printer. And so they have skills, but not the equipment. On the most expensive end are bodas and vehicles. Bodas are those motorcycles that I talked about, used as taxis for both people and goods and animals and anything you can imagine. And vehicles, such as cars, could connect them directly with the American consumer. Because when tourists go there, they often look for a driver. They look for vehicles to take them around to the sites so they can see things while not having to plan the trip and not having to drive on the other side of the road and in a place where traffic laws are a lot less enforced. That is to say, not at all. So they look for drivers. And so if they could have a car, they know how to drive, they have their driver's license by going through a course, but they don't have a vehicle. Getting them the equipment, whether it's sewing machines, whether it's computers and printers, whether it's vehicles, on a lease-to-own program would allow them to have the item immediately and pay me back over time. The fact that they were to be using it over time would prove that they are familiar with it, that they have the work ethic, that they have the determination and the drive, that they would actually use this to make money, to make it profitable. And it would also induce them to take good care of it because they would know that it would be theirs in the end. And they would become familiar with the market for it, whether it's the sewing machines, the photos, or whatever. That would allow them to dive right in as essentially entrepreneurs, beginning their small businesses, using the skills that they already know and the equipment that is provided on lease-to-own program. So a big part of my goal there is to figure out how I could implement such a system, who I could put in charge or over certain aspects or sections. Starting with a small local place where I see this could be a possibility is my goal to find. I'll get more in the where later. And thus to provide them with the equipment they need for the skill that they have to allow them to start making money and be productive independently. So that's another option that I had. And in later conversations, a close friend pointed out that if there's a way to connect them directly to the American consumer, that would be ideal for both parties. The dollar has almost 3 times the spending power in Uganda. Another reason why I'm going there to start a business is because I need a lot less capital to start a business there than I do here. And so if a dollar has 3 times the spending power, then one of us spending what we made in 30 minutes, even if that's $7, if they made that in just a couple hours, it would be astonishing. The lowest range of jobs that some people get are less than $40 a month. I'm not sure how they survive on that. I know some amazing people, even a single mother taking care of children on that salary, and frankly, I don't know how they make that stretch to cover the rent, the food, and save up for the education, to save up for the school bills. It's honestly, I don't know how they make those shillings stretch, but those are the low-end jobs, and that's what it starts at. A comfortable range is around $140 to $280. If they're making any of that per month, then they are in a relatively comfortable range. That is not a lot for an American, though if we were making that, we would not be able to live a month, obviously. We wouldn't hardly be able to live a week on that, depending on where you live. But in Uganda, that would be a very comfortable range. And so if there was a way we could connect the consumer, the American consumer, directly with the Ugandan producers, preferably in a digital way, though I'm not sure how, that could easily lead to benefit on both sides, on both the producer and the consumer. It would be huge. So I'll keep my eyes open for any possibility like that, any niches that have been overlooked, any connections that could be made. And that one may just be a dream, but it will be running in the background of my journeys there. So those are the 3 main options that I'm looking at. One is the lease to own, another is the starting the physical business, and another is trying to find a way to connect them to the American consumer. There are other things that I will seek for and do while I'm there. There are also other times where I will be not focused solely on the business, but also on other things such as leadership centers there or literacy centers, which I'm going to help with that a little bit. Because again, if someone is literate, that does tie in, though indirectly. not the full purpose, but if you're literate, you're able to have a lot more access to jobs than someone who is illiterate. And if you're able to know how to lead and how to manage things properly, manage money properly, those are key business skills. All in all, that's the strategy. That's the strat. That's the goal, is to be able to find a way where it can be productive for them, bringing good things to the marketplace, bringing good things produced, but also good for me on my side. That can allow me to create new branches, to do the same thing, to replicate what's working. So that's the point. That's why I'm choosing to go there, not on a humanitarian trip, self-funded, self-directed, and find a way to do business there. Now let's talk location and timeline. For location, there are 3 cities that I'm going to be based in. One is Kampala, the capital city. Being the capital city, the biggest city, it has the most business going on in there, and it would be a good central location if we are hoping to build a physical location. Secondly, Masaka, west of Kampala, and one of the fastest growing, not the fastest, but one of the fastest growing cities in Uganda, all the ways, both commercially, population, residences. It's one of the major growing points, meaning now is a good time to enter that scene. There's a lot of business happening, and so it's a very favorable market to add a new business because there's so many businesses coming and entering at this time. Now is when they're just getting started and established. Thirdly, we have Jinja. Jinja's on the banks of Lake Victoria. At my time there, I will keep an eye open for opportunities, but that is where the centers that I will be helping with are located, and so I'll be there more for other aspects rather than the business, but my mind and my eyes will continue to stay open and see what possibilities are there. Now, as for timeline, I'll be releasing a new podcast every week. Most of them will have interviews with various people, as well as me talking to explain what's happened, some ideas, some possibilities, and some discoveries. So week by week, we will find out where I have ended up, what has been happened, and it will be much more about the overview rather than the nitty-gritty. Now, it's not actually self-directed, and that's because I feel like this is something that God has prompted me to do. The first time I felt that I needed to do this, I brushed it off as simply a reaction of me wishing I could return to my mission and the wonderful memories and the wonderful spirit that I had while serving the Lord. But time after time, the prompting returned, and that ultimately is what drove me to make this leap. So we will be taking it one step at a time. And as you listen, you will be hearing the things that change, the things that don't work, the miracles that occur, and all in all, the uplift that is going to happen. And let me be absolutely clear when I say the uplift is not for them, but for me. I have learned so much from them. I have learned so much from their dedication and their community. When people ask me to describe Uganda compared to America, the briefest way I can say it is that in America, we have a lot of stuff and comforts. We have a lot of material things, but we have lost a lot of community, of social interactions, of familiarity. In Uganda, they don't have a lot of stuff. They don't have a lot of material things that we are blessed and enjoy. Their connections with each other are amazing. And so when I say Uplift Uganda, it's not me going there as this Westerner, as this white 22-year-old American trying to save them from where they are. That could not be further from the truth. Instead, this is about me going there, uplifted by them, wanting to give back to them in the way that I know how. Another thing you will notice during my interviews is that I will fall into an African accent. This is not in the slightest way done in a derogatory or demeaning way, but it is done in a way that they can understand me clearly. The majority learns English as a third or fourth language. They learn their local language first, so their tribal language, and there's over 60 languages in Uganda, and basically each tribe has a different one. Many of the languages are related to each other. They have a common root, so they'll learn their local language first, and then they will likely learn the local language of their friends or people who live nearby, and then they will go to school and learn English. Or if they don't go to school, they may learn English on the street through conversations such as, "How are you? I am fine, how are you?" Most people there in the cities know basic English on greetings and introducing themselves, if nothing else. The most common language of the cities I'm going to is called Luganda. So it's like Uganda with the L at front. Luganda is a prefix-based language, actually. And so they change the beginning of the words to the ending. For us to make something a language, we add an N. There's Uganda, Ugandan would be the language, right? There's Italy and Italian. It's not a constant rule in English, but we change the N. If we want to make something plural, we change the N by adding an S. Whereas in Luganda, they change the beginning. That is the main language that they will be speaking in these places, but they will often know enough English to communicate with me, especially on things that they are familiar with, translated directly from their language, meaning they use the same sentence structures as of their own language. As you hear me speaking in an accent, know that I'm doing that because it makes them more comfortable, and it helps our communication between us to be clear and accurate. It's not done in a mocking or demeaning way in any manner. So keep that in mind as well. This first trip will be much more about market research and idea creating rather than implementation, but hopefully it will give a solid, detailed workout plan on what is to come. Uganda is about the same size as Utah, but with a population of 51 million people. Again, over 70% of those 15 million are younger than 30. So there's a huge growth of both producers and consumers coming. So there's a huge chance here. And if we're able to set up some good systems, we should be able to help many, many people as the years go by. Our questions are now answered. Why am I going? Not going there to bless the rains down in Africa, but because I want to help people have opportunities. I see an opportunity both for them and for me to be uplifted. I have experience with the place, and I have the drive. I feel called. And so it's with that I go, with that determination. Even though I may not know every step, I am confident that it will bring much good into the world. Uplift Uganda. Uplift Uganda is a production of Food for the Audio. The episode is written and produced by me, Trevor Dyches, with music and post-production by Kenny Mears. We'd like to thank Aaron Miller for helping us with his insights. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, or wherever you listen to podcasts for more content. And until next time, thanks for listening.